Hello and welcome back to this session for CMA final students. This is your paper number 20, section B, business valuation. And in this session, we will revise your study note number 8, that is valuation in merger and acquisition. I'm your friend Arun Mahajan, a chartered accountant, a chartered financial analyst from CFAI USA and a registered valuer. I do practice valuation day in and day out. So I'll try to give you a little flavor of real life also while focusing mostly on examination. So we'll discuss some of the selected questions from your own study material and where I have added some of the information from my side, or I have tweaked the question a little bit, or I have corrected the question, or I have corrected the answers. So this is your illustration number 6, where we will discuss post-merger effect, especially on earning per share and market price per share. Acquiring company is considering the acquisition of a target company. In a stock for stock transaction, so if company A is purchasing company B, A is called acquiring company and B is called the target company. This acquisition can be either for cash or it can be through swap of shares, through exchange of shares. Mostly mergers are through exchange of shares. Here in this question also it is said that acquiring company is considering the acquisition of target company in stock for stock transaction, in which target company would receive rupees 70 for each share of its common stock. So question is already giving you one information that you valued target company at the rate of rupees 70 per share for the purpose of this acquisition. The acquiring company does not expect any change in its price earning multiple after the merger. In all the questions, unless otherwise stated, we assume that price earning ratio before merger of the acquiring company will continue to be the price earning ratio even after the merger, and chooses to value the target company conservatively by assuming no earning growth due to synergy. Calculate, they have asked many things: purchase price, premium, exchange ratio, number of shares to be issued, post-merger EPS, pre-merger EPS, pre-merger price earning ratio, post-merger share price, post-merger equity ownership distribution. Besides these 8 items, I will do many more analysis with this question. So this question is my research laboratory and I'll be doing a lot of stuff on this question even if it is not asked in the question. Following additional information is available. Acquiring company has earning available to equity shareholders of 2,50,000, while target company has earning available to equity shareholders of 72,500. Number of shares which are there are 1,10,000 and 20,000. Market price per share is 50 and 60. Notice here that current market price per share of target company is 60, while acquiring company is ready to take it for rupees 70. So there is a straight gain of 10 rupees to the shareholders of target company. Also comment on your results. Yes, we'll make a lot of comments. Don't worry about it. So first of all, let's talk about the purchase price premium. See, purchase price premium is clearly 10 rupees. Because the company which is currently worth rupees 60, you are ready to buy it for rupees 70. So purchase price premium is simply 10 rupees. Or you can say it is 1.167 times. Fine, it's very easy. Exchange ratio, which is also named as swap ratio. So that is the price of target company divided by price of acquiring company. Here price of the target company, though currently it is 60 rupees, But question says that you need to consider it at 70 rupees. So exchange ratio is calculated like this. Target company has a price of 70, while acquiring company has a price of 50. So exchange ratio is 1.4 times. You know what does it mean? Shareholders of target company will get 1.4 shares in acquiring company for their every single share. So if I am shareholder in the target company and I am holding 100 shares in the target company, after this merger, I'll become shareholder in acquiring company and I'll get 140 shares for my 100 shares in target company. This is the swap ratio or the exchange ratio. How many shares will be issued? That's quite simple. So look here, existing shares are 20,000 and exchange ratio is 1.4 times. So 20,000 should be multiplied by 1.4 times. For 20,000 shares, they will get 28,000 shares in acquiring company. Then what is post-merger EPS? You know, the formula for EPS is very simple. It is earning available to equity shareholders divided by number of equity shares. Question is saying that there is no synergy. You know what is synergy? 2 plus 2 is 22. 1 plus 1 is 11. 2 plus 2 is 5. That's synergy. But we are assuming that there is no synergy. It means post-merger earning is simply sum total of pre-merger earnings. Pre-merger earnings are 250 and 72,500. So make a sum total of 250 and 72,500. Post-merger earning here is 3,22,500. It should be divided by post-merger number of shares. So acquiring company is having 1,10,000 shares and it will issue 28,000 shares to the shareholders of target company for their 20,000 shares. That way, post-merger number of shares will be 1,38,000. So EAES, that is earning available to equity shareholders, 3,22,500 divided by equity shareholders fund, 1,38,000. This is 2.34 rupees post-merger EPS. Now question is there, what is pre-merger EPS of the acquiring company? That's quite simple. Pre-merger earning of acquiring company is 2,50,000 rupees and their number of shares are 1,10,000. So that is 2.273. That's it. This was asked in this point. But I have done a lot of additional analysis also. Post-merger EPS 2.337. Pre-merger EPS of acquiring company is 2.237. So if I want to calculate change in EPS for acquiring company, that's very simple. It is post-merger EPS minus pre-merger EPS. Post minus pre. Post-merger EPS is 2.337 minus pre-merger EPS was 2.273. So accretion in EPS, increase in EPS, advantage in EPS is 0.064 rupees per share. So as far as EPS is concerned, this merger is advantageous for shareholders of acquiring company. Okay, let's also calculate EPS of the target company. Again, it is earning available to equity shareholders divided by number of equity shares. So that is 72,500 divided by 20,000. It means 3.625. Now look here, post-merger EPS is 2.337 and pre-merger EPS for target company was 3.625. But in case of target company, if I am interested in calculation of change in EPS, I cannot simply do post-merger EPS minus pre-merger EPS. No. I cannot simply do that. I'll have to keep in mind change in number of shares also. See, as far as acquiring company is concerned, the shares in acquiring shareholders of, if I'm shareholder of acquiring company, then pre-merger and post-merger my number of shares remain same. But if I am shareholder in target company, my pre-merger number of shares, if my pre-merger number of shares are 1, my post-merger number of shares will be 1.4. This change in number of shares should also be considered. So if I want to calculate change in EPS for target company, I should take post-merger EPS 2.337 and I should multiply it by post-merger number of shares. As the exchange ratio, swap ratio is 1.4. For each 1 share, I'll have 1.4 share after merger. Minus pre-merger EPS was 3.625 and pre-merger number of share was 1. So earlier I was having 1 share which was giving me 3.625. Now I am having 1.4 shares which are giving me 2.337. Dilution, decrease, disadvantage in EPS to the shareholders of target company. My dear friends, this is bound to happen. If there is no synergy and post-merger earning is simply sum total of pre-merger earnings, and one of the two company is saying we have got advantage in EPS or EPS is increased. See, total income is same. And if some people are claiming that their EPS has gone up, then some other people must suffer a loss. If I am gaining, it means you are losing. If I am losing, it means you are gaining. So if the shareholders of acquiring company are gaining, it means that shareholders of target company are losing. As simple as that. But sir, why should shareholders of target company accept this merger? They would like to deny this merger. They'll say, oh no, we won't do this merger. Our EPS will reduce. So you should offer 1.4 times is not acceptable to us. How come 1.4 times? This was 1.4 times. We agreed to buy target company at 70 rupees per share. Acquiring company is having price of 50 rupees per share. This is how 1.4 exchange ratio was there. But this 1.4 exchange ratio is disadvantageous to the shareholders of target company. They will disagree. They will say, give us more than 1.4, maybe 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 2.5. So what is the break-even exchange ratio? What is the exchange ratio at which there is no accretion and there is no dilution to the shareholders of either company in terms of EPS? So let's calculate the break-even exchange ratio. Let's assume that current exchange ratio is 1.4 times. Let's assume that break-even exchange ratio is X. See, now post-merger EPS will look like this. Post-merger earning is 3,22,500. See, look here. Post-merger earning is 3,22,500. Post-merger number of shares are 1,10,000 in acquiring company. 20,000 shares are there in the target company. And exchange ratio is X. Like when exchange ratio was 1.4, it was 20,000 into 1.4. That was 28,000. Right? So if exchange ratio, break-even exchange ratio is X, number of shares to be issued to the shareholders of target company will be 20,000 X. This is your post-merger EPS. Now you should deduct pre-merger. Like this is your post-merger EPS. Then you deducted pre-merger EPS. So deduct pre-merger EPS 2.273. And here you were having a gain. Acquiring company was having a gain. Let's say this time the gain is zero. No accretion, no dilution. If acquiring company is not gaining, then target company won't lose. Solve this equation. Once you solve this, you'll get exchange ratio equal to 1.594 times. See, 1.4 times proved to be insufficient. In case of 1.4, there was accretion to acquiring company and dilution to target company. But if you offer 1.594 as exchange ratio, none of the companies will have a gain or loss. I can prove it. So, how do I prove it? See, 1.594 is the exchange ratio multiplied by 20,000 shares. So you will issue 31,880 shares. Existing shares are 1,41,880. 141,880. Keep this in mind, or let's put it in memory. 141,880, right? The post-merger earning is 322,500. It should be divided by memory recall. So your EPS will become 2.27. Roughly it will be 2.273. Post-merger EPS will be 2.273. Now look here. Pre-merger EPS is also 2.273. Post-merger is also 2.273. No gain, no loss. Apply this to the target company also. 2.273 is the post-merger EPS multiplied by the exchange ratio, which is 1.594. This is 3.62. And look here, this is also 3.6. Some rounding error is there. Otherwise, it is roughly same. So 3.62 and 3.62. Again, no gain or no loss. Right? I have proved that if you increase the exchange ratio, see at the exchange ratio of 1.4, acquiring was gaining and target was losing. But if exchange ratio is kept at 1.594, none of the company will gain or lose. Both will be at the break even. But this is like a lengthy formula to derive this break even exchange ratio. I have also got a shortcut formula. And you know the shortcut formula is very simple. If exchange ratio is calculated based on EPS of both companies, that is EPS of target company divided by EPS of acquiring company, that will readily give you break-even exchange ratio. EPS of target company is 3.625, you can check it. EPS of acquiring company is 2.273, 1.59. You need not to make this difficult equation and solve it. If exchange ratio is calculated based on EPS, you will directly get break-even exchange ratio. This is the situation when there is no synergy. If there is synergy, then see, if there is no synergy, if one party is gaining, other one is losing. If there is synergy, both of them can also gain in terms of EPS. Fine? Great. So point number 5 we have explored. Now with extra analysis, this was not asked in the question. Point number 6. What is pre-merger price to earning ratio? For acquiring company, pre-merger market price was 50. Pre-merger EPS was 2.273. So pre-merger PE ratio was 22 times. And question says that assume that post-merger price to earning ratio will also remain at the same level, that is 22 times. Post-merger price to earning ratio will also remain at the same level, 22 times. So if you want to calculate post-merger share price, it should be post-merger EPS multiplied by pre-merger PE, because pre and post PE is same. Post-merger EPS is 2.337. It should be multiplied by 22 times to arrive at post-merger price 51.41. Fine. Now I have done some additional analysis also. Change in EPS for acquiring company. That is simply post minus pre. Post-merger MPS 51.41. Pre-merger MPS 50 rupees. So accretion in terms of MPS due to merger is 1.4 rupees per share. Wow. Shareholders of acquiring company must be happy that due to this merger, their 50 rupees of price will go up to 51.41 and they'll have a gain of 1.4 rupees, 1.41 rupees. They must be happy. You can also calculate change in MPS for the target company also. See, but here you need to consider exchange ratio also. Post-merger MPS is 51.41. The exchange ratio at which this MPS is calculated is 1.4 times. So shareholders are not having one share now. Now they are having 1.4 shares. And each share is 51.4. Minus pre-merger MPS was 60. See, 70 was the price at which acquiring company ready to acquire target company. But otherwise the pre-merger MPS was 60. So earlier you was having one share of 60 rupees. Now you are having 1.4 shares of 51 rupees. And the beautiful thing here is you are also having accretion in MPS. And this is 11.97 rupees per share. Have you noticed something? That in terms of EPS, if acquiring was having accretion, target was having dilution and it was bound to happen. But in terms of MPS, acquiring is having accretion advantage and target company is also having accretion. And that is advantage. Wow, it's a win-win situation. Both companies are gaining. How is it possible? Target company is losing in terms of EPS. Still, it is gaining in terms of MPS. What is this miracle? How is it possible at all? See, the reason is price to earning ratio. See, if you calculate price to earning ratio of the target company before merger, it is 16.55 times. See, I'll tell you, its price is, before merger price is 50 rupees divided by before merger EPS is 3.625 for target company. Oh, no. I'm sorry, it's 60 rupees. I'm sorry. So 60 rupees is pre-merger price of target company divided by 3.625, 16.55. So before merger, shareholders of target company were enjoying a price to earning ratio of 16.55. But once it is merged with the acquiring company, once it comes under the umbrella of acquiring company, now they will start enjoying the price to earning ratio of 22 times in place of 16.55 times. Right? So though they are losing a little bit in terms of EPS, but they have started enjoying higher price to earning ratio. And that's why even though they are losing in terms of EPS, they are still gaining huge in terms of MPS. This is a wonderful analysis. Nobody is going to teach you this analysis. Okay, sir. What does it mean that 1.4 exchange ratio is advantageous to acquiring company? It means acquiring company can give even higher exchange ratio. And 1.4 exchange ratio is beneficial to the target company also. So they must be ready to take even the lower exchange ratio. Now the question is, what is break-even exchange ratio in terms of MPS? What is the exchange ratio at which market price per share, change in market price per share will be zero? See, when I calculated break-even exchange ratio in terms of EPS, it was same for both acquiring and target company. But when I calculate break-even exchange ratio for MPS, it will be different for acquiring company and the target company. See how. 3,22,500 is post-merger earning divided by post-merger number of shares, 1,10,000 for acquiring, plus 20,000 into X for target, where X is the exchange ratio, like 1.4. So this shaded text is actually post-merger EPS. If you multiply post-merger EPS by price to earning ratio, which is 22 times, you will get post-merger market price per share. And now you are doing it for acquiring company. So deduct 50 rupees, which is pre-merger market price per share. And you wish that this should not be 1.4 rupees. This should not be 1.4. This should be 0 rupees. Do solve it and you will get it. You can pause the video and solve this and you'll get it equal to 1.595. Wow, that's wonderful. Even for EPS, the break-even exchange ratio was 1.594. Moral of this story, as far as acquiring company is concerned, the break-even exchange ratio is exactly same whether you calculate it in terms of EPS or you calculate it in terms of MPS. Break-even exchange ratio for acquiring company is same for EPS and MPS. Let's see for the target company. Again, same set of calculation. This is post-merger EPS multiplied by price to earning ratio. This is post-merger MPS. But you know, post-merger MPS should be multiplied by price exchange ratio. So this is post-merger MPS. This shaded text is post-merger MPS. This should be multiplied by post-merger number of shares minus pre-merger MPS into pre-merger number of shares. Earlier you were having 1 share. Now you will be having X number of shares. And you don't want it to be equal to 11.97 rupees positive. You want it to be equal to 0. Now I'll have to solve this equation, cross multiplication. This thing, this 60 rupees will go on the right hand side and denominator will be multiplied in 60 rupees. So 60 rupees multiplied by 1,10,000 plus 20,000 X. And left hand side is 322,500 into 22 into X. Then I'll solve it further, then I'll solve it further, and then I'll solve it further. This is 1.12. Notice one thing, that when we were calculating break-even exchange ratio in terms of EPS, it was same for both acquiring and target. But when we are calculating break-even exchange ratio in terms of MPS, it is different for acquiring and target. And you know why it is different for acquiring and target? Because acquiring is facing same P ratio, while target is facing change in P ratio from 16.55 to 22 times. What is moral of this story now? Acquiring company will say, look, Mr. Target, we will give you at the most 1.595 shares for your every share, not more than that. If we give you more than 1.595, then we will have decrease in MPS, dilution in MPS. To which target company says, no, don't worry. I will not accept an exchange ratio less than 1.12. This is fantastic. Acquiring is ready to give maximum up to 1.595 without dilution of its MPS. Target is ready to take 1.12. It is saying not less than 1.12. Fantastic. So now they can bargain. Their negotiation maybe between 1.595 and 1.12. Suppose they agree at 1.4. Suppose they agree at 1.4. Then it will be beneficial for both companies. I have written this also. It means that while acquiring company can offer maximum 1.595 shares as swap ratio, target company is ready to take even 1.12 as the swap ratio. This is the whole additional analysis with your point number 7. Now, point number 8. Post-merger equity ownership distribution. So, target company, shareholders of target company are holding 28,000 shares in the merged entity. Total number of shares in the merged entity are 1,38,000. This is 20.29%. So, after merger, shareholders of target company will have a control of roughly 20% on merged entity. It means acquiring company will have an ownership control of roughly 80% on the merged entity. So this is a comprehensive analysis of effect of merger on EPS, on MPS, on ownership percentage. I hope you enjoyed this question. Now I'll discuss one more fabulous issue which nobody is going to teach you, right? What should be the formula to calculate exchange ratio? People also name it as swap ratio. See, the most popular formula is this. You want to calculate exchange ratio? Take the data of target company in numerator and take the data of acquiring company in denominator. Look here. We did it here. Here. Yeah. So price of target company you have taken as 70. Price of acquiring company is 50. So exchange ratio was 1.4. So this is the most popular way of calculating exchange ratio. Data of target company divided by data of acquiring company. If you do it like this now, what do you calculate? Number of shares of acquiring company to be given for one share of target company. You know, like if MPS of A acquiring company is 50, market price per share, and market price per share of target company is suppose 40. Let's call it T for target. Then target divided by acquiring 0.8. What is this 0.8? 0.8 shares in A for 1 share in B. But sometimes some people do a reverse calculation also. They put data of acquiring company in the numerator and data of target company in the denominator. If you do it like this, you will get number of shares of target company for getting 1 share in the acquiring company. Like here in this example, if I do 50 by 40, exchange ratio will be 1.25. It's a difficult interpretation. To acquire 1 share in the acquiring company, I have renamed it as T, just a minute. To acquire 1 share in A, shareholders of T should give their 1.25 shares. This is strange. This is difficult. I personally don't prefer this way of calculation. Yeah, I personally don't like it. So I'll grade out. I don't like it. I like this method, this one. Data of target upon data of acquiring. But let me tell you, this is good only if this data is any positive point, any good thing. So what do you mean by positive point? What do you mean by good thing? If something increases and you feel good, and if it reduces, you feel bad, it's a good thing. It's a positive thing. Money in your pocket increases, you become happy. Money in your pocket reduces, you become unhappy. It's a positive point. Like EPS is a positive point. If it rises, you are happy. MPS is a positive point. If it rises, you are happy. BVPS, book value per share, growth rate, etc. All these things are positive points. But sometimes exchange ratio is being calculated on the basis of negative points also. Like non-performing assets in case of a bank, negative EPS for a company. If the exchange ratio is to be calculated based on some negative type of data, some bad data. For a bank, if non-performing asset as a percentage of loans given by the bank, if this number rises, they will feel bad about it. If this number reduces, they will feel good about it. So this is the negative point where rise is bad and fall is good. If the exchange ratio in some question is to be calculated on the basis of any such data, then even to calculate number of shares of acquiring company for 1 share of target company, you'll have to inverse the ratio. Data of acquiring divided by data of target. Like A company, there are two banks. Bank A has 5% non-performing asset. Bank B has 10% non-performing asset. And both banks are going to be merged. And question says that calculate the swap ratio. Then you won't do target upon acquiring. You will do acquiring upon target. Acquiring company, bad dates of 5%. Target company, bad dates, I mean non-performing asset of 10%. Exchange ratio 0.5. 0.5 shares in A for 1 share in B. If you do reverse, it will give you number of shares in B for 1 share of A. I personally don't like this reverse thing. And I'll zoom it out so that at a single glance you can have the entire thing at a glance. Sir, this is quite difficult. I don't get it. Okay, if you're finding it difficult, just keep in mind this one single ratio, forget everything else. Data of target upon data of acquiring. If exchange ratio is to be calculated on the basis of good trades, But if exchange ratio is to be calculated on the basis of your bad position, then just do reverse date of acquiring upon date of. This will give you number of shares to be given to the shareholders of target company for each share they are having in the target company. Right? Okay. Very nice. Hmm.